Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel where I promote the lesser known authors to help them out and so I can help you out too and let you know about these great authors that are out there and we can help promote and get these authors better known. Today I am joined by Kelly Blanchard. Say hello, Kelly.
Hi, everybody.
And we're going to be conducting an interview. We're going to be talking about her book. I don't have a lot of room here to put. I'm going to put her book right here. And what's the name of the series, Kelly?
The series is The Chronicles of Lorik. It's a fantasy science fiction blend.
Right. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start with that? Why don't you tell us about your series and give us an idea of what the story is about?
Okay, the series is a 9-book series, and it is following a sorcerer. His name is Prince Lorik, and it's basically the entire series is about him trying to do what's right, and trying to help his family, and constantly getting blamed for when things go wrong. And he's just trying to help people, and he keeps on making mistakes, and everybody blames him for it. That's really what the overarching idea is. I mean, it's much more complicated than that, but when you really get down to the bone of it, it's just you have a sorcerer who's trying to do something, trying to protect those he cares about, and bad things keep happening. And everybody thinks because he has all this power, he should prevent it from happening, but he can't. And so he tries to, but then they get mad at him for trying to fix everything. And, it's just a mess. So.
Yeah, I did read book 1. I enjoyed it very much. I like Lorik a lot. My particular favorite was, start out because I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, because I'm reading several books. What was his name? The oldest brother?
Theron.
Theron.
Yes.
My particular favorite was Theron. I don't know. I guess I'm just in love more the tough guy kind of person, and that's definitely what Theron is, right?
Yes, he is. He's very much like that. So.
So where did the inspiration for this story come from?
Well, if you watch the movie Thor, first one and all of them actually, you have Loki. And I like Loki. And there were some parts of it, I was like, what if Loki was actually a good guy, but just really misunderstood? So Lorik when he first started reading book 1, he's based a lot off of Loki, just a good version of Loki. But you can see his mischievous side of it. But it's totally not anything related to Thor or anything like that. It's not all Norse mythology. But that's just where the idea came from. And then I just took off from there. So.
Oh, is there a Thor-ish character?
A pardon? Is there
a Thor-ish character?
Actually, Thorin is based off of Thor.
Maybe that's why I like him.
Yeah. So also, he's based off of Chris Hemsworth in The Huntsman as well. So it's basically the same kind of idea. So, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. So, can you tell us about the world you created? Now, I remember when I read the book, you had kingdoms with specific specialties like art, and music in one, and magic in another, technology in another. Tell us about that.
Well, in this world, on this continent, there are, I'm trying to remember how many there are, 6 kingdoms, and each one has their own specialty. You have Newrim that has the art and crafts and so forth, and then you have a Thorm that has pure magic. There's 2 kinds of magic. There's pure magic and tainted magic. It's a lot more complicated than that when you get through the series. You figure out exactly what that means. But then you have Sohan that has the assassins and thieves. And then you have Talhan that's known for its neutrality. It's a very quiet kingdom. That's in book 1. You hardly even know of it. It's not even, there's only one person who's from Talhan, and that's the only way you know of it. And then you have Kuskalam that's known for its ward orbs. And then you have Jakorm that's known for its high-tech technology. And all the kingdoms except for Jakorm, all the other kingdoms are medieval. But then you have Jakorm that is very high tech. And a lot of people, when they were reading that, have asked me, why does Jakorm just conquer everybody else? I'm like, you just have to read, book 4, you'll figure out. because there's a reason, and you get to see it and what exactly happens and why the kingdoms all respect each other and don't actually conquer one another. So it's a lot of fun.
When I read the book, the one thing that I thought of, and like I didn't read the series, so I'm sorry, I only read one. But when you were talking about the world orbs that let you tell anywhere, and I guess when I first thought of that, I thought, boy, that's not that handy. How are they so powerful? But then I thought about it. I'm like, actually, one of the major advantages of these world orbs would be the controlling of information. Because if you can control information, you can control everything. And anywhere at any time.
Yeah. I mean, the ward orbs go hand in hand with the hand blades. The hand blades allow the wearers to teleport. I mean, you have mages that can teleport by magic, but you have non-mages that can teleport by the hand blade. But the ward orbs allow you to go to different worlds and bring in culture or whatever. That's the only way that you can. They're the only ones with that access to that. And now, of course, they have smaller ward orbs that go to different continents. But it saves a lot of travel, and that's how there's one of my books, one of my later series, because all my series, I have multiple series, but they all are in the same, universe. And you get to see what is, they call it like a traveling square, where you have the ward orbs out in the open. And of course, it's all, people, it's all controlled. And then people are just like merchants will go there, and then they'll travel to another world. And then they can come back, and then they can, that's how they do their trade. So that's what Cuskellum is known for. Of course, by the time the Chronicles of Lord begins, that is non-existent anymore. I mean, the ward orbs are still there, but they're locked away because of what events had happened in the past. So, but that's what Cuskellum was always known for. So.
Right, and trade. You bring up another great there. As fantasy, I'm a fantasy author too, and when you get into fantasy, there's a lot to think about. You have to think about trade. You have to think about customs. You have to think about languages. There's a lot to worry about. And if you could teleport anywhere, you can control trade. That could make you a very rich kingdom.
Exactly.
So I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Is there any races, like most fantasy, I guess, are known for elves and dwarves and stuff? Do you get into any other races?
Dragons do appear. They're shape-shifting dragons. They do make an appearance, but that's not until book 5. But and I don't like doing, what everybody else does. Like, I don't have elves, but I have my own race, which are similar to elves, but they have their own characteristics. They're called the Kelloffs, and they're unique in the fact that they are technically immortal, but they still die because their land that they lived in, every new year they would be gifted with an extra life. So if you live 30 years, you have 30 extra lives. And if you die, you can imagine how long you can live with that. So that's a kill-off. Now you get to meet them later on. And then you have another race later on that you meet called an Anaconsinia. And I actually base them, they're more of an insect kind of creature, but I actually base them off of the culture and society. I based it off of ant colonies. And it's so, but they'll, they stand upright. They look a lot like the Dark Riders and Lord of the Rings, if you want a visual. But they're not like that. There's much more complicated than that. So I have those kind of races, but they're all scattered throughout the whole series and so forth. Most of it's human, and we do go to outer space. You do go to other worlds and so forth. So you get to see a lot of different things too.
Okay, yeah, I love when an author comes up with a unique race. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the elves and dwarves.
No, there isn't. No. Yeah.
When you come up with something new that really keeps the reader interested and really helps grab them, and that's a really interesting thing about the extra lives. I really like that. That's really neat.
Yeah.
A lot. So,
It's a lot of fun. It gets complicated, and you're like, how do you kill one of those? I mean, permanently kill. You can kill them, but you have to do it over and over again, and that's a question that keeps coming up. So it's a
okay.
lot of fun, and you gotta, if you read, I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but if you read, you gotta figure out what happens and what they do to fix that. Not fix it, but how do they deal with the threats, that eventually comes up from that. So
Okay.
yeah,
I
it's a lot
like
of fun.
that.
So.
Okay.
Mhm.
So here's one of the biggest questions that since I read that I
Okay.
wanted to ask.
Uh-huh.
Please tell me about your magic system.
Well, it starts off very just vague. That's how it starts off. Um, but the more you get into it, not just in this series, but especially in the next series I'm publishing, you find out that it's very complex. It's a hard magic system. It blends magic and science and math and imagination all together. And it's very complex, and it's so interesting because it shows you that on a certain level, like everybody can actually has magic, but it's only manifests to them in creativity, and sometimes that's for inventing or science or something like that. And so it's fun because my really big fans were like, they wanted magic, so I just purposely somehow managed to get it where I said, well, you do have magic, just not like Lloyd has it, but you have a form of magic that still technically would be considered magic. So that's how, I mean, later on, you get to figure out, you see what happens when somebody is stripped of their magic. And it's not very good. But because it's part of their soul. It's like, part of it's like having your imagination and so forth, and then having that just stripped. And so that's part of how the magic system works in my universe. It starts off very vague because
Mhm.
honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. But as I decided to go back and really explore it some more and really, really not shy away from it, that's when it just started really developing and becoming very complex. And it's a lot of fun. So,
Oh, great. Yeah, I like
yeah.
that. Yeah, that was like one of my biggest questions when I was reading. Is like, how does this magic system work?
Yeah.
Lorik was doing all these
Mm-hmm.
crazy things, and it was like, I knew that it was coming. It's
Uh-huh.
just, like I said, I haven't read the whole series, so I knew that there would be more to it. I knew there would be.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, in Lorik's series, there's a lot going on, so I don't really have the time to stop and just give a whole lecture, basically. But in my next series, there is a group of mages that have always had their magic restricted, and so when there's finally the restrictions are finally lifted, they don't know what to do. So we have this one person come in and educate them, and that's when I have the opportunity to really go in and give lessons basically of what magic really is and show it. And it's a lot of fun. So,
yeah, I like it. Excuse me. Um, so how do you publish your work?
I'm self-published. I write. It takes me about 2 months to write a 100,000 word novel, and then about a month to revision and self-editing, and then I send it to my editor. I give her a month to edit it, and then around that same time I have my cover designer working on the cover, and then I get all back and I format my own books. I use a fantastic app on Mac, which is called Vellum. It's fantastic. And I managed to format my own books. And then I just use Kindle Direct Publishing to upload everything. And that's what I do. So then you
So
have marketing, which is a whole other animal.
what was that last part?
And so then you have marketing, and that's a whole other animal. So,
Yeah, that was the birth of this channel,
yes.
marketing. Like I said,
Yes.
I found it like, well, first of all, how long have you been a writer? How long have you been a published writer, I should say?
Well, I mean, I started publishing the Chronicles of Loic in 2016, if I recall correctly. I've been writing though since I was 12, and I don't know how long ago that was. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. So I think it's like 20 years ago or so, something like that. So, and I've been writing, for years, and I've written, I don't know how many novels, but I've only started because I wrote the first book of the Chronicles of Loic in 2012, I think, and I only finally published it in 2016, and I
Oh,
just took off. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the hardest part about being an author, right? Like just getting the word out there. It's a
Yeah,
lot
it
of work.
really is. It really is. But that's what I love about the indie community, author community, because we're all struggling. So we like to support one another. I have my group on Facebook. Well, that's what I really like to do. And I like to encourage people and answer questions. If they have questions about what I'm doing, I can tell them what I'm doing. And then if somebody wants to promote, I can help promote them or something like that. That's what I like to do. So,
Yeah, yeah, we got to work together, right? Got to stick
that,
together.
exactly.
Yeah. Um, so do you have anything you've written outside this series that's published? The,
No,
no.
I used to publish historical fiction. That was before, and I was under a pen name. But that was before I started self-publishing. I was using a vanity press, and I wasn't really in love with the series, so I was kind of doing it because my parents wanted me to. And I don't like historical fiction because so much research. I'd rather write fantasy where I can create everything.
Yeah.
so I published like 3 books, and I was supposed to publish a fourth one, but I was like, I can't do it. So I was very frustrated with the person who was publishing my work because I couldn't promote my work or do anything with it. So I just terminated a contract. It took everything off, and it's all, not available anymore. And then after that, I just started publishing what I wanted, which was my series, and everything else that I have one entire series already written, and I have another series. I have one more book left that I have to finish writing, and that one's next. All these series are in the same universe because I have like 5 other series that are also, and they're all, just in the same universe, and it's a lot of fun because I get to explore different themes and just continue to expand it, and it's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, you said that the world orbs go to like other worlds. You said, right?
Yep, and we get different worlds. Eventually, we're going to get to different dimensions and different things like that. It's going to be very complicated, and I enjoy crossing over all different genres, like science fiction, fantasy, steampunk, different things like that. And it's just, whatever I want to do. I was like, can I do this? Let's see, and I do it, and it's, there's no limits, and it's a lot of fun. So.
That's great. Um, so when you write, are you more of a plotter or pantser? And do you know what I mean by that?
I do know what you mean. I'm both. I when I write,
Well,
I
real quick,
always.
just so the audience knows, a plotter is somebody who uses a outline when they write, and a pantser is somebody who just sits down and writes whatever comes into their brain. So that's the difference.
And,
Just so
and
everybody knows.
then you have a plantster or plantster, which is both. They call it. But what I do is I always know how it's going to end. Like, okay, this needs to happen because I already know. I'm like, this is what's going to happen. And thankfully, my characters are like, yeah, I know. And so I have the main major project, climactic points, major scenes, and I know what those are, but I don't know what connects them.
Mhm.
And so normally what I do is I sit down with my husband, who's also a writer. He's not published yet, but we do co-write sometimes. And I say, okay, from between this point and this point, I don't know what happens here. So we brainstorm until I can get a basic outline what those are like. And then I just go with those. And then sometimes things change and I'll just go with it or whatever. And then I just go so forth. So I like to have a basic outline, but I like to also wing it because I used to be one of those very strict plotters. And I figured out when I did that, I got bored. And because I had technically written the entire story, but in telling form, and I didn't want to write it. So I had to mix it up and do both. So.
Yeah, sometimes characters they tell you where they're gonna go, right?
Yes, they do. And you're like, no, I'm not doing that. If you make me do that, I'm going to give you writer's block and you're going to regret it.
Yeah, it's weird how characters take on a life of their own, and you say, hey, look, I want you to go this way, and they, no, I'm not going that way, I'm going this way.
Exactly. And it's a lot of fun, especially if you stop and you listen to them. And because they'll tell you something that you don't realize. And one thing you have to remember is that it's their story, not yours. And you're just a vehicle to get it written. So let them do it.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah.
So as an experienced author, what advice would you give to new authors who are just starting?
Well, my first advice is that if you're just starting and you haven't never written before, that first book you write might not be the one you publish, and that's okay. Because when you're first writing, you have to figure out how you do character development, how you do dialogue, how you do description, plot, story structure, all that stuff. That's a lot of stuff. And then you want to publish that, you don't even know how to revise, And so, just write the first book and be like, okay, you wrote something fantastic. Now try that again, and then keep doing that, and always focus on something like, okay, focus on the description, become really good at description, and then dialogue, focus on those little things like that until you're confident in all of that. And then if you want to go back to what you first wrote and rewrite it after you've after you've mastered everything, then go ahead and do that. Because what most likely will happen is you'll look back and you're like, oh, I can't believe I wrote that. And so, or you can write something new. And another thing is, when you do that, you come up with all these ideas and you want to use them. And what you can do, and I do this a lot, is you go back to an old idea and you say, I like the idea, but I hate the story because it was a terrible story. I don't want to rewrite it though, but I like that thing that's in there. So like an object, as magical object, okay? So you can take that and you can put it into a new story and you recycle it and use it again. And I've been doing that with so many things with my stories. I have like a ton of times, oh, I like that thing. I like that thing. I forgot about that. And I just put it and I breathe new life into it. And then I can introduce a whole new world, And that's a lot of fun. And I would really recommend that. That's what beginning writers do as they're starting off.
Yeah. It's great advice. I like hearing that. Because even as, well, I wouldn't call myself an experienced writer, but even experienced writers can learn new things, right?
Exactly. Always learning new things. Every time I write something, I'm always saying, okay, can I do this? And sometimes it's like, can I make a villain good enough that people like them, but at the same time hate them? Or can I make this person seem good enough or evil enough that people really, 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 really want this person to die? But then they realize they completely misunderstood that character and that person does die. And then how do I make the readers feel bad? Can I do that? And so I'm always, every time I write, I'm constantly challenging myself with at least one thing. And it's just see if I can do it or not. And it's a lot of fun to do that. So,
yeah, I've always found the empathetic villain the best kind of villain. Well, I know you based Lorak off of Loki, but Loki was an empathetic villain. He felt bad.
Yes.
And that's why everybody loved Loki.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
So how can people find you and your work?
You can find me online. My website is kellanetta.com. It's KELLANNETTA .com. Sorry, I was going to give my email address. But on Amazon, you can just look up Chronicles of Lorak. You'll find it. I'm also on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Kellanetta is my username for the most part. On Facebook, you can find my page as author Kelly Blanchard. Or I have a very active group called The Muses Realm. So that one's a lot of fun. So those are all places you can find me, and I am very active mostly on my Facebook group.
Yeah, I was just about to say that exact thing. I am part of Kelly's Facebook group myself, and I see her posting all the time. She's a great responder, and if you have questions or want to talk to her about her book, she's very receptive. So that's an advantage that a lot of, if you can't exactly call or message Stephen King and ask him a question about his book. And so I guess that's an advantage of us smaller authors is you can talk to us and we can give you the answers as long as it's not a spoiler.
Yeah. Normally somebody will message me. I'm like, you just have to read some more. I'm like, but I think no, just read. Or right. Another question. Oh, that's in book 4. You're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, read.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Is this a plot hole? No, it's not a plot hole. It's just covered later.
Yeah. You figure it out. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. My fans will message me when they encounter a major twist and they just like blowing up my phone. Sometimes they'll record themselves reading it and they'll send me a video of it, and it's so funny. And I'm like, okay, you gotta post this in my group or something. It is so funny. But, so,
I haven't experienced that one yet. That sounds amazing.
I have a person, I have alpha readers. Those are people that read it while I'm writing it. Like I finish a chapter, I'll send it to them. It's totally unedited. But they're such big fans and they just love my work. And so when I was writing the 9th book of the Chronicles of Loic, which is basically a major battle, think of Endgame, okay? Just different. A Game of Thrones Endgame kind of sort of thing. And so a certain character died. And I could see what part she was reading just by her face expression. I know what part she's at. And there we go. And she just like started crying. I'm like, I should feel bad, but I don't. So
this question just popped in my head. Do you ever have any problems writing certain things? Like certain authors will have a problem writing love scenes or battle scenes or one-on-one fights, or do you have a problem with any of those?
The only thing that I cannot stand writing are space battle scenes. I can write major battle scenes and on ground, but the reason why space battle scenes are so complicated is because you can go 360. You have more space literally, and it's like there's no order to it. And at least on ground you can have some kind of order to it and so forth. But in space, just forget about it. And so this last book I wrote mostly takes place in space, and there were like so many space battle scenes. I'm like, I do not want to write another space battle if I can help it. But I've got it, so that's the hardest thing I have to write. I don't. Other than that, everything else is fine. I have fun with everything. I've done martial arts, sword fighting, archery, guns, and so forth. So I know how those work. So when it comes to a fight scene, I'm like, okay, I can do this. But yeah.
Okay, great. So is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
Not that I know of. My 9th book, the last book of the Chronicles of Loic series, is coming out next month in January 2020. Don't know exact date yet. I think I have an idea, but I'm not going to say yet in case I change it. But right. I know it's coming out next month. That's the last book in that series. And then the next series will be launched next year as well. And I also have a nonfiction book for helping and encouraging writers coming out in February as well. So.
Okay, that's great. Mm-hmm. So this has been the interview with Kelly Blanchard. Kelly, I really appreciate you coming out, joining us, and
thank you for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wish you all the success in the future. I will provide a link to Kelly's works in the description below so that you can check it out. I highly encourage it. Go check it out. Also, I did a review of her book, so you can see that on my channel. And I really, again, just thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.